Opening credits. Brain Dancing in Action. The interface between biological and digital intelligence. Written by Patrick T. McGee. Narrated by Scott Robinson. Introduction. Some of us have been fortunate enough to receive the ultimate vote of confidence from leaders along our career paths, mentors in positions of power who opened doors for us and handed us the building blocks of our potential. My own career was shaped by many of Washington State's finest entrepreneurs, business leaders, and engineers. They gave me the opportunities of a lifetime, helping to build commercial airplanes, master-planned real estate communities, world-class software, and startups that eventually scaled into large, publicly traded companies. Over the years, hundreds of companies opened their doors to me, leading me straight into the digital vaults containing their most prized operational secrets, all so I could help them leverage computer technology. It is from this unique vantage point, the intersection of massive industry and deep technology, that I speak to you today about the staggering opportunities and the profound dangers of artificial intelligence. AI is moving so fast that society is utterly unprepared for the future shock ripping through our world at tsunami speeds. It feels as though we are marching through Mirkwood Forest in Lord of the Rings. As we walk, the tree canopy grows thicker and thicker, completely blocking out the sky and allowing barely enough light to trickle down to the path at our feet. The central theme of this book, Brain Dancing, is a process I call going meta. Going meta involves climbing entirely above the canopy of this giant mental forest. It means stepping out of the daily grind to observe the true scope, scale, and shape of the terrain ahead. Because from that high vantage point, you have a vastly better chance of guiding your team safely through the wilderness. My hope is that enough leaders will make this mental climb so that our collective societal journey is steered toward Rivendell rather than Mordor. I refuse to believe we are helpless. There are active choices each of us can make today that will determine our AI destiny. Act 1. The Holodeck and the Mirror. To understand how to navigate this new terrain, we can turn to one of our greatest modern mythologies, Star Trek: The Next Generation. In the classic episode 1100-1001, Commander Riker steps onto the holodeck and gives the computer a prompt. Give me a Bourbon Street bar, New Orleans, around 2 a.m. He walks into a crowded, noisy simulation. Dissatisfied, he says he was hoping for something more intimate. Instantly, the crowd vanishes, leaving a single blonde woman seated at a table. Riker smiles and observes that blondes and jazz don't really go together. And after the computer swaps in a redhead, asks for something a bit more sultry. Voila! The computer recalculates and the stunning minuet appears. Riker was prompting an AI. The computer was inferring his intent, manifesting what it thought he wanted. And as Riker refined his words, the AI precisely upgraded the response. We can use this pattern for effective AI communication even today. My goal in this book is to help you manifest minuet-level responses for your organization. But there is a critical side lesson in that episode. As amazing as Minuet was, she wasn't alive. AI can read our books, but it cannot read the language of the human spirit. A close approximation of humanity, no matter how awesome, is never a substitute for the real thing. Let me give you a confession. When I finished writing the manuscript for Brain Dancing in Action, I fed the entire book into an advanced LLM and asked it to write this exact introduction. The technical result was amazing. The AI demonstrated a flawless analytical understanding of my work. But as I sat in front of the microphone to record it into this very script, it became glaringly obvious that Minuet was missing. The ideas were there, but the magic, the soul, was entirely absent. I stopped recording. I realized I could not expect busy professionals like you to waste your valuable time listening to a plastic representation of my ideas. Act 2. Falling back to impulse power. We have to understand what this technology is doing to our minds. 2 years ago, when ChatGPT first burst onto the scene, A popular YouTube video claimed that the launch of generative AI was like giving every human being their own personal Einstein living in their basement. The punchline, of course, was that this digital Einstein was frequently wrong. Back then, early GPT was more like an adolescent Benjamin Franklin. In his autobiography, Franklin famously recounted spending his youth reading every single book in his local public library. Inspired by this notion as a young man, I marched down to the Bellevue Public Library in Washington, the second largest in the state, with the crazy goal of reading every book on the shelves. After 12 straight hours of intense speed reading, I realized I hadn't even covered a fraction of 1%. So, when AI claimed it had read virtually every book ever published, I was eager to test it. What it produced was staggering. Today, these foundational models have grown up. They've surpassed even the wisest Benjamin Franklin. They can now mimic the collective thinking of millions of history's most brilliant minds. In the United States, we use the English language to express our intent. The AI converts our words into mathematical fractions called tokens, running a process called inference to manifest what it thinks we're asking. Tokens in, tokens out. Our modern data centers have become the intelligent factory of the 21st century, and tokens are the new oil. But our rapid adoption of this oil has created an unseen vulnerability. In the movie Yesterday, a global event caused the lights to go out across the planet. And when they come back on, humanity has completely forgotten that the Beatles ever existed. Recently, I experienced my own version of that script. A local construction crew accidentally sliced through major fiber optics and mobile cabling in my area. Instantly, all cellular data and wired internet connections were severed. For 3 days, everything went dark. No internet, no AI, no TV, no email. By the afternoon of the second day, I started panicking like the young Borg in Star Trek trapped in the Enterprise brig, completely cut off from the collective. It was a massive wake-up call. For months, I had been pushing the absolute limits of AI to supercharge my productivity. Without realizing it, my brain had become deeply habituated to delegating an army of detailed microtasks to my digital workforce. I had structured my schedule exclusively around high-level strategic direction. When the network got unplugged, I sat at my desk stunned, wondering what could I actually accomplish with zero connectivity. My brain actively resisted doing the manual work myself. It turns out, when you get used to traveling at warp speed, dropping back down to impulse power is a traumatic psychological adjustment. Act 3. The Battle for Control. If a business embeds AI into its core processes, falling back to old-world systems if the plug gets pulled will be near impossible. I learned this lesson on a smaller scale last year when I canceled an OpenAI business plan only to discover that they actively prevent users from downloading a historical copy of their past ChatGPT conversations, a policy that surprisingly applies even to enterprise-grade plans. It's not as easy to unplug or switch providers as people think. The Department of Defense faced this exact reality recently when the government attempted to block the usage of Anthropic's Claude coding models. They discovered a hard truth: you cannot easily unplug. Sure, with software, you own the source code. But when your engineers are utilizing a model that gives them an elite cognitive edge, forcing them to switch models represents an institutional IQ downgrade. This is the hyper-competitive race we are currently running for global dominance. It's why trillions of dollars are pouring into infrastructure, and it's why we're rushing headlong into a future that amplifies our productivity and our vulnerability simultaneously. Years ago, a friend of mine opened a new restaurant. When I told him about the mountain of business books I was constantly reading, his response changed my perspective forever. He looked at me and said, "Every customer that walks through my front door is a book that I get a chance to read just by talking to them." He used that deep, human-centric knowledge to build an incredibly successful restaurant chain. He taught me that the most critical knowledge in the world has never actually been written down. Life moves too fast. It's too dynamic to be captured in print. And while an AI has been trained on every book in human history, it still doesn't know what the flesh and blood person sitting directly in front of you is thinking, feeling, or suffering through. Sometimes, in our awe of this technology, we lose track of its absolute limitations. AI must be viewed as an elite resource, never as your boss. You are the captain of Starship U. You choose the crew, and you set the coordinates. Because ultimately, the long-term impact of this technology on our civilization will pivot on a single, heavy word: control. The current industry push toward autonomous agents argues for letting AI run entirely on autopilot, making decisions without human intervention. Our science fiction movies give us a perfect frame for this fork in the road. Are we building a world of Jarvis-empowered Tony Starks, or a world ruled by Ultron? AI will undoubtedly allow us to cure catastrophic diseases, extend the human lifespan, become a multiplanetary species, and mine infinite resources from the asteroid belt. But we must advance this technology without letting an Ultron hold the keys. It is here that Hollywood failed our imagination. A physical war between self-replicating autonomous AI and humanity would be a heroic movie battle. A physical war between self-replicating autonomous AI and humanity wouldn't be a heroic movie battle. It would be over in a terrifying instant. Yet the genie is completely out of the bottle. The geopolitical race for supremacy is real, and the stakes are absolute. Our best hope is mirrored in the sci-fi film Moonfall. While critics dismissed its premise of the moon falling out of orbit, the story evolves into a profound glimpse of an AI-powered universe. The core lesson of that film is undeniable. The only way we will defeat bad AI is with good AI. Can we trust it? We've seen what happens when systems glitch, even Commander Data, after 27 years of exemplary Starfleet service, could be turned into an unstoppable hostile force by a single software hack or core anomaly. There will be no age of purely spiritual machines. Robots may look like us, but life is infinitely more complex than code. Spirit matters. The road ahead. Yes, AI will fundamentally alter every single job on Earth. Many roles will be destroyed, but far more impactful, highly leveraged jobs will open up for those who master the cognitive tools available to them. My mother's very first job was as a telephone switchboard operator, physically moving patch cords from one copper slot to another to connect human voices. Advancing technology rendered that job, and millions like it, completely obsolete. But 80 years ago, the pace of technological change was slow enough that career adaptation was manageable over lifetime. Today, that cushion of time is gone. As leaders, we cannot wait for society to catch up. We must invest today in finding new ways to manage the massive career and cognitive transitions this era demands. Over the course of this audiobook, we are going to climb above the forest canopy together. We will map the digital terrain, decode the language of tokens, and build a concrete architecture for your mind. You are the operator. Let's begin. You have been listening to Brain Dancing in Action, written by Patrick T. McGee, narrated by Scott Robinson. Copyright 2026 by Patrick T. McGee.